Hello, everybody. Welcome to the UEA's Nursing Podcast. My name's Joe Ellis-Gage. I am one of the lecturers in the Children and Young People's Nursing team here at UEA. And today we're going to be talking to Naomi about taking a break in studies. So welcome, Naomi. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So you've been asked to come along because you've taken a break in studies.
I have, yeah.
You've returned.
I have.
And all has gone well.
It has.
And we wanted to find out a bit more about that from you. But I wonder if you could start just by telling me when you started on the nursing course, what course you're on.
Yes, so I am on the children's nursing degree, and I started in September 2019. So, I came straight out of sixth form and went straight into it. It's quite funny because in my first week, I sat down with the course director at the time, and I just wanted her to be aware of a few things because at that point in my life, it was quite difficult. Mm-hmm. I had a family member in prison. We were looking at homelessness, and my granddad also passed away that week. So it was actually really, really intense. So we sat down and she had no idea, the course director at the time. So we just had a chat and I said, this is going on, but I'm here, I'm dedicated, I'm ready. And funnily enough, the first thing she said to me was, do you want to take a break?
Okay. Right at the start.
Right at the start, a week in. And that shocked me because I was like, what? Like, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm dedicated. And she said it to me and I thought, I've never even considered that. I mean, I never considered a gap year. I've wanted to be a nurse for so many years. I didn't even consider taking a break before I started it. But I went home, told mum and said, look, this is going on, what do I do? And ultimately I said, no, I'm ready for this degree. So it was quite funny because that was already in my first week that I was approached.
How interesting.
So I thought about it, but I thought, no, I'm ready and I'm sort of stable enough to do it, and I'm excited. Yeah. I mean, this is an exciting time. You're going and doing your degree. Continued. So that was September 2019. Carried on, did my first block of theory, first block of placement, and then we went back. So we had a February break, and then we went back to our placements, and then that was obviously when COVID hit. So there was a bit of 2-3 weeks, a bit of confusion because obviously no one really knew what to do. So we had some time off. And then they brought us back online to bring all the theory closer. And then we did some year 2 theory in year 1. And then the plan was to do a lot of placement in year 2. Yeah,
so that was everything was up in the air. Because you were first year at that point, they made the decision that first years would come back out from placement, while second and third years would still be out because they were a bit more established, could be probably a bit more useful maybe out in practice.
Absolutely.
And wouldn't get overwhelmed. So that's why you came back.
Yeah. So they thought that was the best for us. And we were all sort of happy with that decision. We understood it. And we only had 4 weeks of practice before that. So we were not ready to be out there. So we came back and we did it all online. I was falling asleep a lot.
Okay.
And I was losing a lot of weight. And I ploughed through, but every day was nap in the afternoon for about an hour during lectures. And I thought, this isn't normal. This isn't quite right. But I let it go. We had the summer. So as far as I was aware, we finished first year, but not in terms of your placements. Yeah. But it's like you've done your first year. So we came back and then we had a few weeks online again. And then the plan was to go back to our practice areas for our placement to finish on year 1. So, health wasn't great. So I decided to get a blood test, and I sort of spoke with my GP, and they did not want to give me one because they thought it was stress. So she listened to me. I mean, I was in floods of tears. I was like, couldn't get my hormones in check and I was all over the place. And I just said, something's not right. Like I knew in my gut, something wasn't right. And I said, there was a lot of stress at the moment. Family member had come back out of prison, but we're still dealing with a lot of all the implications of that. And my sister was getting married and everything was happening at once. And she said, we don't think anything's wrong with you, but if it's going to make you feel at ease, we can give you a blood test. That's fine. So I went in, had the blood test on the Friday, and she said, I'll give you a call on Monday at 5 o'clock just to tell you results.
Yeah.
So the Monday came around, and that was my first day of year 2 placement. So I was on the bus on the way up to local hospital, and I get a call at 8 o'clock in the morning. Basically, long story short, she said, your blood results have come back. They're not great.
Okay.
Sugars are very high. Your HbA1c, which is obviously what they test for your blood sugar, is at 71. You're not safe. Please come home. Come back to your GP. We can get you diagnosed. So,
And this is literally whilst you're
this is
on your way in
on my way
to
in.
restart placement in year 2.
Yeah, my first day. So I was on the bus crying, floods of tears. I thought, I knew something weren't right, but I was not expecting this. So I thought, I'm on the way up, I might as well tell my practice area.
Yeah.
So I went into the hospital, went up there, and I just said, I think I've got diabetes. I'm not allowed to, they haven't formally diagnosed me yet, but this is what's happened. And she was lovely, and she was like, go home, that's what you're meant to do. Just keep me updated. So I went back on the bus, came home, and then 5 hours later, I was back on the way
again.
up as a patient, which is really weird. Thinking 5 or 6 hours ago, I was the student nurse, and now I'm on the other side of it. So yeah, I was diagnosed on that day with type 1 diabetes, and then the course director, she found out from the practice area because I hadn't got around to telling her yet. She sent me an email, said, "We need to speak urgently. What is going on? Are you okay?" And she said, "Take 2 weeks off, get in control of your health, understand it, you will feel so much better." The 2 weeks turned into 4, the 4 weeks turned into 6, and it went up to 3 months. I was signed off sick, really, really poorly. But about the 4-week mark, the course director contacted me and said, you need to take a break. You've got so many hours now to catch up on. I mean, you're looking at, I think it was about 160 hours, and they said, you just can't, you need to take a break. So this is probably naivety, but it hit me like a bus. I was not expecting this. And I've always been, although this isn't something to be proud of, I was very proud of, I hadn't taken a gap year, I knew what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be graduated time. I was 21, and I was going to be young and fresh and whatever, and I was excited for it. So it really hit me. But I agreed it was probably best. So I had about 2-3 close friends on the course, so I let them know, and they were quite shocked, obviously, had no idea, and I was like, sorry, I'm not going to be with you on your journey anymore. So that turned into a year out. Then I got still really wasn't very well. Like you can be well enough to do your day-to-day, but to be well enough for placement and to be well enough to do this degree, you do need
You used to be properly
to be
well.
top tip. So it came around and they said, in order to get your placement back on track for hours, you'll need to come back in the May, do your placement throughout the summer. But for a number of reasons, that didn't work out. So that was kind of the only option that I had. And they said, you need to consider a second year. Again, hit me because I was like, one year is like, in my head, like 1 year's bad enough, let alone 2. But the second year I actually quite enjoyed. I mean, the first year was rough. I mean, I wasn't well, and it was just about getting better and
you weren't well during COVID, during lockdowns, all of that.
Exactly. Yeah, because this was all through COVID. So it was quite an isolating time. But so my second year didn't again happen how I wanted it to. So I used that time. I got a part-time job and some money because I thought I'm now well enough to be out. Because this was about end of 2021. So this was a good year on now.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I'm well enough to go to work. So managed to save up a bit of money actually, which
Great.
really helped coming back as well, because that sort of took the stress off. Having to do so many hours when you're in practice, and also set myself up as self-employed as well. So I've actually, I do support work for a client who was had encephalitis. Mm-hmm. So that's now given me again some really good insight, like from the diabetes, but also from this client and doing this work. It's really set me up now for the degree. And having that 2 years out has been so, looking back, reflecting on it, so positive.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So, and you would have seen it as a negative right from the start when it was all discussed.
Oh, I was furious. So it's been such, looking back now, I am so happy I took those 2 years. I mean, the first year wasn't a choice, but this is what's happening. I could not have done placement. I could not have done it. The second year, again, it was a choice, but also it didn't work out. But I just, tried to use it for the best I could, and it worked out really well. So
going right back to when you were first told about it on your first week at university.
Yeah.
I'm assuming at that point you didn't even know what break in studies meant.
No.
You'd never considered it, because why would you consider a break on your first week?
Exactly. Yeah.
Was the whole process just a complete shock to you? When you had that raised?
Yeah.
You obviously didn't do it at that point.
Yeah.
Why didn't you do it at that point?
I didn't.
Because you felt you were just in the right place? You were okay?
Yeah, I was okay. I think it came down to a few things, really. One, I felt fine to continue. I didn't feel like I might struggle this year. I thought, no, I can do it. I'm ready for it. And I was excited. I mean, the year I applied, it was quite a hard year to get onto the course as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think they said there was about 180 applicants, and there was 40 that we were going to get a spot and going to be on the course. So it was a bit of a battle of the fittest.
Yeah.
Which obviously I wasn't very fit, but didn't know at that time. But I was ready. I was excited. I had some really lovely people on that course, the cohort. So I didn't want to take a break.
Yeah.
But
you didn't.
I did.
You didn't foresee the pandemic coming. So
no, exactly. That was all before.
And then the next time it was discussed,
Yes.
when you said it was a surprise, and obviously you kind of were a bit blinkered. You were just ploughing on, feeling unwell, thinking I'll get better, and then I'll finish my course.
Yeah.
And it was then a surprise when you were told by the course director that actually you've passed the point of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it probably was quite a lot of naivety, but I was probably thinking, I can make up the hours, I'll make up the hours. But when you get past a certain point, you have to be realistic. And so the course director said to me, look, you are going to have to take one now. Like, you've gone past that point that you cannot make these up. Yeah.
And that's the we have people who go on breaking studies because it's their own choice.
Yeah.
And because circumstances have meant they've kind of gone, I'm really struggling, or I've got other things I need to focus on in my life. I'd like to take a year out.
Mm-hmm.
But more often than not, it's people who are almost forced into it by circumstance. And that practice hours is a prime example. There's not a lot of spare time on this course to catch up hours. There's not a lot of summer holidays time where you're not doing anything.
No.
So often, and it does come as a surprise to people sometimes when we have to raise that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And you clearly felt, I have to do it. I've got no choice.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm assuming you weren't happy about it.
No. No, I was not happy about it. I think, looking back, I saw it as a failure because I thought I'm not finishing now when I should be. Although I've never been like a straight A student and all that, but I have had this like pride about myself that I'm on track. Like, you'll hear that a lot. If you come out straight out of sixth form, straight from GCSEs, A levels, uni, you're on track. And you see that timeline and you're focused on it. And in the minute someone says, have a year out or do this. And for me, that was like a kick in the chest, because I thought, that's not what I want. I do not want to take time out now. I want to be on my path, on my timeline. And then that got taken away. So you go through that grief as well, which is a weird thing, because it's like, it's just your degree, just have a year out. But when you don't want that is a hard thing to take. Yeah,
and plenty of people have a year out before they even start without even thinking about it. So it's
exactly.
not.
No, it's not a big thing.
It should be a big thing.
No, it shouldn't be. But I think there is not a taboo around it, but there is this kind of like, you don't plan to take one. So when it does come about, it's a bit of a
do you think that was put on by yourself? Did you put yourself under that pressure, or was it friends or family or anything external, or was it just yourself?
So my family were really, really supportive. I mean, the first time it came about, obviously before I was diagnosed, and that was like the family circumstances. They said, "Do you need one?" And I said, "No, I don't." And that was fine, because I didn't need one. But then when the second one came along, my mum went, "I think it is best," and all my family was so supportive. So yeah, it was my own self that was like harsh about it.
Okay. And then what worried you? When you were like, right, I've got to go on this break. I don't want to, but here I am.
Yeah.
What were your worries?
Worries would be, or they were, like coming back, because I was like, I've got to say goodbye to my cohort now, that I'm not going to join them ever again.
Yeah, and then just to be clear, if anyone's listening,
yeah,
your break-in study isn't 2 weeks or 4 weeks.
No.
Generally, a break-in studies is returning with the year below you.
Yes.
Roughly a year later, sometimes
Yes.
sort of 9 months to slot into wherever you need to.
Exactly.
So yeah, that whole group of people you spent
They've
that
gone.
year with.
Yeah. They move on, and you feel like you're stuck, because you are stuck. You are waiting, and they're ploughing along with the year above, and it's not a nice feeling, but you get used to it very quickly, and there is a lot of support with you joining the next cohort, and it is fine. It's fine. I'm telling you, it is fine. Like, it might not feel at the time, but honestly, it's good once you have it.
So your main concern was probably the whole the social, the groups, the whole dynamics of having to come and fit into another group.
That was one of them. I mean, also in your head, I mean, I hadn't had that much placement experience anyway. I mean, I'm talking 4 weeks, but I was a bit worried, like, will I lose my skills, but will I lose this feeling of like, I'm going to have to, because I don't know how long I had that in the end. It was over 1.5 years. I've got to go through all that period again, of feeling like, oh, well, I'm in my first year or my second placement, but actually I haven't been here in 1.5 years. And you sort of got to get all this information out, which placement, they understand. But that was another fear of mine, was like going back in.
And you went back into placement really quickly. You kind of had 2 weeks of reorientation or something.
I came in once to say hello. That was when
and that was it.
I was introduced to the cohort. That was half of them, I think, in a seminar.
That's right. Yeah.
So I joined them for one day. I was on a Wednesday, I remember that. And then I went back to placement on the Monday.
Because you completed all the academic work.
I completed it all.
So you didn't need to attend the
No.
sessions. You'd done all that. You'd passed all your assignments.
Yes.
It was just the placement you had to go back to.
Yes. So I just, to sort of make me feel better about myself, that was when I came back in for the day.
I remember introducing you to the group. Kind of
Exactly.
This slightly strange kind of like, you've got a new person in your room.
Yeah, which I don't think they were expecting, but they were all lovely about it. But it was a bit of I'm here for just one day, just to say hello, and then I'll see you all in September, October. So
yeah, and then you went out onto a really long placement because you had hours to catch
12
up.
weeks.
And
yeah. So I had, so it was my main block of 8 weeks, but then obviously I had 4 weeks what I'd missed. So that would have been my 1.1.
Your 1.1,
Yeah.
your first placement.
Yeah.
So you had your second placement and catch up from the first placement all in one.
So bulked it all
big
together
block.
from May to August, and that was 12 weeks on the same place. So
And how did you get on?
it was good. I actually fell in love with it, and I think that's what I think everyone will go through this. You debate whether or not to come back.
That was going to be one of my questions. Yeah.
I was 50-50 for a long time, and many different reasons brought me back, which I can go into, but I don't know if that'd be interesting or not. I mean, my own self, I thought, now I've started this, I'm going to finish it. I don't like to leave something incomplete. And one of my sixth form teachers, when we were going through choices, she said to me, I think you should consider childcare. I think that would be more your level.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I wanted to prove to her that I could do this. I mean, I bumped into her a few months ago and I said, I'm back to doing my degree, because she didn't know I was poorly. She didn't know how to use out and blah, blah, blah. But I did not appreciate her saying that. Nothing wrong with doing that.
But it wasn't for you.
It wasn't for me. And I'd set myself this doing children's nursing. So when she said that, I thought, I can prove you wrong. And I'm going to. So yeah, myself, my teachers, my family, and yeah, I thought, no, I don't want to then as well not come back and then 5-10 years regret it and think, why didn't I just go back and try? Give yourself a month, give yourself 3 months, give yourself a target and think, you know what, if I'm not feeling it in a month, 3 months, I've given it a good shot. But don't give yourself a day, or don't think, I'm not sure, I'll leave it. No, you have to come back, jump in. Don't just like stick your toe in. You have to jump in, give it a really good shot, and then you'll know. But yeah, I was 50-50 for a little while, and then I thought, I've got to give it a go, got to. And then, yeah, I have no regrets coming back now. So.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people don't return after breaks in studies.
Yes.
And that might be for the right choice for them. It's
Absolutely.
really hard to know, but there are a lot
Yeah.
of people who sit in that middle who
Yeah.
go, I know this is what I want to do, but I'm now
Yeah.
a bit overwhelmed by the situation I'm in, by the
Absolutely.
returning, all of that.
Yeah.
And they'd lose
Yeah.
that confidence that
Yeah.
they would have had.
Yeah. I mean, I had a bit of a reality check as well. I rang student finance and they went, well, 29,000 at the moment in debt. And I thought, I've done about a year and 2 months.
Yeah.
And to have that on me, I know you only pay it back and there's so many different things, but I thought to have that there and knowing I haven't finished the degree, I need to get this finished.
Yeah, you want that for a purpose. You're like, I've got debt because I've got this at the end of it.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want this whole year and a half to be a waste. So yeah.
And so you said you went straight into placement. You jumped straight back in again.
I did.
And although you had that apprehension about settling into placement, you got on really well. I remember coming to see you on placement.
Yes.
Thinking, I'll come and check on how you're doing because otherwise you probably feel a bit lost.
Yeah.
And you were just a bit busy to talk to me.
I was.
You were like, it's nice to see you, Joe, but I'm a bit busy.
I remember I had 2 cannulas I'd taken out and there was another one there and I was like, I had these like trays in my hands. I remember seeing you and I was like, I can't chat right now. I've got things to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. If I go into placement and you're sat down with nothing to do, that's more of a worry. So
exactly.
I suppose that was good. But it showed you that I came in thinking, it's nice to check on you, but you haven't got all your peers, you haven't got everything else.
No.
And then you were just off doing your job. It was fine.
Yeah, so I remember there being a few students. So I think third years, so my original cohort were finishing their placement when I was out. Got a little kick in the teeth, but they were lovely. So they had just about 2 weeks left when I went back.
So when you returned to finish off what was year one, your peers were finishing off their third year and about to be registered nurses.
Yeah. So again, you do get a few kicks and you just have to smile through them. I was trying to see the positives. But yeah, so they were finishing and then I saw the first years, so the ones I was going to join that cohort. So it was quite funny. So I was 4 weeks in because I went back before them because I had that other block to finish. So I did that and then they joined me. So I had to do my induction 4 weeks late because how it was the rooms and everything. They said, do your induction late. So I did jump in properly for my placement because there was no induction. I just sort of turned up and got stuck in. But with my induction, I had it a month in. And it was so funny because one of the matrons said to me, You've already been here though on placement. I said, yeah, I had to start early. And she goes, oh, brilliant, you can do one of the tours. So I had to take my current cohort, my new cohort, around and tour them of the ward, which I found quite funny. I don't know how they found it, but I was like, well, I've been here 4 weeks. Because it was quite a big cohort that would go into that ward. It was just split down the middle. And she said, are you happy showing them around the ward? So that was all it was. It wasn't like do the whole induction, but it was just show them around the ward. This is the playroom. This is the meds room, that kind of thing. So, but...
And how have you settled in with the group now? So obviously you came back, you kind of briefly met them for one morning, went off onto placement and met some of them on placement.
Yeah. So
and now you're at the end of year 2.
I am.
How's that gone?
They're a lovely, lovely group. So with the day 1, that was a whirlwind. I mean, I think we had, I don't know if it was 9 till 1 or 9 till 3, but obviously there was lectures, seminars going on. You can't chat to them as such, but just said hello to them briefly. They then invited me into their messenger group, so I was in touch with them. Yeah. And then on placement, I met about 10 of them because there was quite a lot who came onto that ward, and so I said hello, and they kind of were interested in me and what I'd done so far, and because I'm quite a unique student and where I've been and where I started and that kind of thing, they were quite interested and quite confused by what I'd done and hadn't done. Because I was like, when I go back to year 2, I've already done, I think it was 12 weeks of that theory, but obviously I hadn't done any assignments for it, so I needed to repeat it. But yeah, they were all lovely. I did make sort of connections with a good few of them who I still am at the moment.
Now you're settled into the part of the group.
So they've just welcomed me with open arms. So it's been really nice, and they've been really kind and made me feel at home. And to be honest, sometimes I have to think, this isn't my original cohort. Like sometimes it just feels like you just blend back in, give it a couple of weeks, and then the friendships change, and friendships change all the time. But you just come in.
Yeah,
I found,
you fit in.
and I found my own people now. And sometimes I sit my own, and sometimes I don't have people to sit to. But actually, that's how I want to be, and I quite like having that independence now, of sort of being with people when I want to be. So that's how I like it. So.
And then just one more thing I wanted to ask about was academic work, because you'd completed your year 1 academic work.
Yes.
And then came back and did placement. Mm-hmm. And then with year 2, your academic work is quite late on in the year.
Yeah.
You had a massive gap between assignments.
That was terrifying.
So you were worried about that?
I was, yeah. I mean, I finished year 1 with 68%. Which I was really happy with, because I said earlier, I'm not a straight A student. My GCSEs were mostly C's. Like that's and I was always thinking, get 60% in my degree, brilliant. I mean, that's all I want. So when I came back, in my head, because I was debating whether or not to come back, but in my head, I had this, again, naivety that I was like, get through this placement, you've done it. Like the degree. Like in my head, I was like, oh, that's it. And then I'd done all the placement, and the relief from that was just unbelievable. I was like, oh my goodness, I've done it. And then coming back, we had 3 weeks of theory, and then 2.1 started. That first few weeks took me a bit by surprise, because one of the seminar leads said, look, it's a massive step up from year 1. We're going to get you really engaged, your critical analysis, we're going to get you thinking and applying it. And I just thought, I haven't done this in a year and a half, and I'm scared. Like, I cannot remember how to reference. I can't remember how to string together a sentence sometimes. Like, I'm a bit... So, I mean, I know there's support out there with student services and the learning enhancement team. I kind of said, look, take a deep breath and look at the work you need to do the directed study. It's there for a reason. Have a good read through, and keep organised. And then if you need help, reach out. Yeah. So one of my old cohort in the year 3, when I was on placement, she sat me down and I said to her, I was like, I'm worried. How's your capstone going? Like, I know I'm a year off from that, but I'm worried about it because I haven't done any academic work in what seems like a long while. And she said, just reach out, do get help. So that's always been in the back of my mind when approaching assignments and doing work, and I just think I know there's help there, and if I need it I will reach out, but I've just plodded along. And so my first assignment came back, and I think you marked it actually, but it came back and I was really happy with it, and then the second one came along, and they've all been fine. So I've always started early. I'm not a procrastinator, which is one of my strengths. Good. So I started like 10 weeks early. And I thought, if I just do little chunks, manageable chunks throughout the day, and then I can have a good week, 2 weeks at the end to then really fine tune it. And that really helps. I mean, I know everyone says that start early, and you sort of push it back. But if you want to do it stress-free, and give yourself time, because I was like, I need time because I'm not used to this. I'm not used to my brain being in this way. Yeah. This will help. So, and it did. So.
Fantastic. Yeah. So if we were going to summarise, it sounds like you had a really challenging first year through personal circumstances, pandemic, ill health, everything coming together. Yeah. Felt you had no choice in going on to a break. No. So we're really reluctant, but actually there are some real positives that have come out of it. And all those things you were apprehensive about, returning to placement, academic writing, absolutely, fitting in with a new cohort. Yeah. Have all kind of turned out to be. Yeah. You've dealt with them. They haven't been easy.
No, it has not been easy.
But you've done well. Yeah. If there was one thing that you would say to someone who was contemplating going on a break, or on a break and coming back soon, what would you say?
I did make a little list of things I kind of wanted to put across, because I wasn't sure the questions how it was going to be discussed. But don't be afraid of being afraid. Like, you have to put yourself out there, and that is scary. And set yourself a target, but make sure it's longer than a day. Like, say either a month or 3 months, think, I'm going to give it a go. I feel like you owe yourself that. And reflect back. Did you enjoy whenever you took your break, did you enjoy the months leading up to it? Did you think, this is my degree, this is where I should be? And reach out for that support, attend meetings. I mean, I remember we had a meeting, I think it was about 6 months before I came back, just to check in. And that's good, because I think even at that point, like, you don't admit it, but you're like, I'm not sure if I'm coming back. Like, but sit down and just think, do I want this, and how much do I want it? Because if you say, like, bye-bye, how you can't then just come back. I presume you've got to do the whole thing again.
Apply again, start again. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so just have a real good think and just come back if that's what's right for you. But come back if you're unsure and give it a good go. Give yourself a good month, 3 months, and keep checking in.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for coming and talking to us. That's been really, really helpful.
Good.
So I hope you have found this video interesting and useful. If you have any questions, comments, then please feel free to add them in the comments section. And like the video, subscribe, and you will see future videos from UEA Nursing. Thanks very much.
Thank you.